Rochester, New York, and Veliki Novgorod, Russia, have enjoyed a sister city partnership for the past 25 years. We had the opportunity, through our Linkages of Rochester, which is the organizing body of our sister city partnership, to apply for funds through the U.S. State Department called Peer-to-Peer Dialogues. The Peer-to-Peer Dialogue project provided opportunities for members from Rochester, New York and Veliki Novgorod to travel to each other's country with a mission to discuss the global topic of domestic violence, share intervention approaches to end domestic violence, and consider effective, culturally competent community responses to help victims and survivors break the silence of an abusive, intimate relationship. We wanted to bring out of the shadows what is often hidden. The focus on the collaboration was based on the understanding that domestic violence is a public health concern. In fact, the World Health Organization has found that about a third of women globally are impacted by intimate partner violence. This is an issue that impacts all societies.
Domestic violence is something that affects all ages. So it can impact children witnessing it in the home and understanding that that's what a relationship should be. It impacts all ages. We see it in high schools, in dating relationships. We see it on college campuses. We see it in adult relationships, and we also see it as people age and into their older years.
In both the U.S. and Russia, domestic violence is closely related to issues of child welfare. It can result in the traumatization of children, family impoverishment, loss of a parent, and out-of-home placements.
According to the American Psychological Association, every year an estimated 3.3 million children are exposed to violence against their mothers or female caretakers by other family members. Although only 49% of parents believe that their children are aware of the domestic violence in the home, research ongoing shows that 80 to 90% of children living in the homes are aware of the violence that takes place in the home.
Если в доме обижают, они могут прийти в центр подросток, написать заявление и остаться там проживать.
And after children turn 10 years of age or older, they can come personally to this shelter. If they are subject to domestic violence, they can apply for shelter and stay at this place.
I just would like to add, right now in Russia we have a national program devoted to children which violated in families, but we haven't a program which devoted to domestic violence. Mm-hmm. It's connected things, violence in the family, violence to children, but on national level we're just talking about violence to children. Why we don't talk about women and other victims in family?
As a mother, I felt I needed to provide a safe haven for my family, be it my son or my daughter, because it happened with both. I felt as if I didn't want that life for them. So because I didn't want that life for them, I needed to remove myself. And I was dealing with low self-esteem. I was dealing with self-esteem issues, things about me, and at that point in time dealing with it in a different way. And it was not till I realized my kids were seeing this all the time, you know, that I said enough is enough. So I went, as a mom, I wouldn't want that for any kid. And I said enough. I had to get out of there.
There's growing evidence understanding the role that trauma plays in the lives of children. children who experience neglect and abuse, as well as children who have observed and seen domestic violence in their family, experience forms of trauma. These traumas often seem invisible and yet have a lasting impact as the child develops into adulthood and can impact their interpersonal relationships and cause much difficulty.
Практически все мои клиенты на психотерапии – это те люди, которые приходили ко мне на консультацию.
Basically, most of my clients that are doing therapy with me are those who came for counseling.
Мы начинали искать корни и причины ныне существующих проблем.
And we started looking for roots of an existing problem.
И чаще всего всплывала масса травм прошлого.
And in most of the cases, there were a lot of childhood traumas arising in the process.
То есть жил человек изначальный, вот она это называет изначальный ребенок, красивый, естественный, жизнерадостный.
Originally, there is a whole person like as she calls him, an original child.
И, да, но, к сожалению, мир не всегда справедлив, и этот ребенок сталкивается с рядом психологических травм.
And unfortunately, because the world is not always just to everyone, this child faces psychological trauma.
И если он не научен родителями вовремя работать с своими болезненными эмоциями,
And if the child is not taught by his parents to work with those emotions,
то происходит то, что называется морем боли. То есть каждая травма накапливает какое-то количество невыплаканных слез. Одна травма.
And then we have something that is called the sea of pain, when all the emotional stress is collected.
Вторая травма.
And one trauma, another
Еще,
trauma,
и еще,
and
и
another
еще.
trauma.
И рано или поздно у человека формируется так называемое море боли.
And at some point we have something that is called the
И
sea
море
of pain,
боли-
which is formed around the person's personality.
Очень важно понять, что море боли формируется только из непроработанных эмоций. То есть иногда оно начинает протекать.
Yeah, and in some cases this sea of pain starts to leak, and it is formed basically from those emotions that we haven't worked with.
То есть если ребенку вовремя, или человеку в любом возрасте вовремя помогли, он вовремя проговорил, проработал то состояние, которое было у него в психологической травме, то вот это непроработанные эмоции сюда не добавляются.
So, and in case the person has been taught to work with those emotions, they do not add up to the sea of pain.
New interventions have been developed to address the trauma that individuals experience.
We've heard a lot of statistics today, and I want to just share one other statistic. The last National Intimate Partner Violence and Sexual Violence Survey in 2011 indicated about 23% of women nationally will be victimized by severe physical violence some point in their lifetime. So the question is, what do we do about it? We know it's a huge issue that's far-reaching, has incredible impacts on individual health, well-being. So the question is, what do we do? We'll talk about interventions. It's really helpful to put it on a spectrum of primary prevention, secondary prevention, and tertiary prevention. So if you think about primary prevention, it's about prevention education with schools. We have some promising research in this area, mostly coming out of the University of New Hampshire. The bringing in the bystander is showing some promise on college campuses and having an impact on changing sort of gender stereotypes, becoming aware of rape culture, rape myths, and also sort of changing the culture about communication and intervening for someone who may be a victim.
These are some of our statistics on how we understand who the perpetrators of violence are and who the victims are. We have in America 2/3 of rapes are committed by someone who is known. So it disputes the myth that rape is stranger, waiting around corner. We know now that it's more common or more frequent someone we know, which we call acquaintance rape.
We have a program called Stand Up Guys, which engages with all men and invites men to be part of the solution to preventing violence against women. Because most men don't perpetrate violence. And what we've done in our culture is say to men who don't perpetrate violence that they don't need to worry about it. This is domestic violence or intimate partner violence are considered women's issues in America. And our conversation is it's an everyone issue, it's a humanitarian issue. So how do we engage, regardless of gender, in the prevention of the violence? The Stand Up Guys intervention engages with men and invites men to connect with other men around preventing violence against women. This is a truly primary prevention. The idea that if somebody's getting sick downstream, what's going in upstream that has to change so that people downstream are healthy. So globally, we've recognized that when a man speaks to another man about preventing violence against women, the message gets across in a way that's very different than a woman saying to a man, stop it.
Next, if we talk about secondary prevention, it's really about early identification. So the problem exists, it just may not be out in the public, or people may not know about it. So in the IPV world, it's about screening and asking people at their health or mental health appointments about their relationship. Tertiary prevention, which is really about the issue is present, how to reduce the implications and the side effects per se of the problem. In the intimate partner violence world, these are really our therapeutic interventions, our advocacy programs, our shelters, our court-based programs. So the issues present, how can then we reduce the symptoms and the side effects of the violence?
So in case of a successful option, when the woman copes with the challenging life situation, it requires only one or two sessions, one or two psychological sessions. But in case of an unsuccessful, in case of an unsuccessful scenario, the process of support and help may vary from several weeks to several months. So identifying these problems helps to reflect the feelings and actually stabilize the situation.
My research focus in the area of domestic violence is in the area of interventions. So really what I'm interested in is what helps people who experience abuse and violence in their relationship, why does it help them, and when does it help them in sort of the spectrum of their experience with violence and abuse. Most recently I've been working with the Safe Journey program, and I've been evaluating their program and preliminary doing some qualitative interviews and analyses to understand, is this a model that's effective for women, and if so, why is it effective? Why are women seeing a difference in their life?
I met who I thought was the love of my life at college, and yeah, I moved away with him and we got married. I knew him for 3 years, and we were married for 12, and I lived far away from my family, so I'm very close to my family, but he kind of had me, I feel like, separated from them, and it was heartbreaking to be away from them, but it was just, I wanted to marry for life, and I think he kind of took advantage of that. He hid some things from me. When we were 3 years into our marriage, he told me that he had a baby with somebody else when he was in college, and he didn't tell me that before we got married, so that was the first big red flag, that and his alcoholism, and he was a mental abuser. So I kind of always thought it was me, you know, and it was always something that I could do. I'm I'm a hard worker. I was raised that way and never wanted to give up on him. But he kind of always pulled me back. You know, I've been to counseling a lot and just never realized. We've been to marriage counseling, I'd gone to individual counseling, but just nothing ever really stuck. And I would be like, oh, I'm healed, and go on, but things would just keep coming up between us. And he was a big-time emotional abuser.
Ну, у меня муж находится в тюрьме.
It so happened that my husband is sentenced to prison, and I'm raising my children alone. And then I decided to sell my flat and buy myself a house outside. But unfortunately, there was a fraud with the house, and I lost everything. And this is why I had to seek help of the center.
In addition to family court, victims of domestic violence, if there's a crime, can have their offenders arrested and go to criminal court too. But family court is easier for a victim to use. They don't have to have the offender arrested.
And we deal with areas of concern for
legislation.
Right, legislation and anything to do with law. Like for our example, we'll have making new laws. We also have what we call a high-risk assessment team, that we look at difficult cases.
Through this partnership, the topic of domestic violence was brought out of the shadows and into the light. Our joint vision is a world free of family violence.
I feel like about the girl that graduated from high school again. I feel like my old self. I'm happy. I wake up every day happy. I'm going to work again. Like people at work like me. I have more friends than I did when I was married. And I'm like, this is no coincidence, you know. These things are all because I got away from the toxic things in my life. I feel like I got my life back. Yeah.
All the people, all the young girls that work here, they give me confidence. They always say that I will cope with everything.
Today I would describe myself as a woman with a voice, a woman with knowledge, a woman that wants to stop what's going on with domestic violence and violence, period. Whether it's at home, whether it's in the streets, in our hospitals, in every area.